Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I've lived on this piece of land for over 40 years now. It's a beautiful 5-acre plot just outside of town, with a cozy ranch house, a big red barn, and plenty of room for my horses to roam. When I first bought this property back in 1983, it was surrounded by nothing but open fields and farmland as far as the eye could see. But as the years went by, the suburbs slowly crept closer and closer. About 15 years ago, a fancy new housing development called Willow Creek Estates sprung up on the land adjacent to mine. Suddenly I had neighbors with their manicured lawns and cookie-cutter houses. It wasn't ideal, but I figured we could coexist peacefully as long as they respected my property line. For the most part, things were fine at first. I kept to myself, and the new neighbors didn't bother me much. But then the Willow Creek Homeowners Association started getting more aggressive. At first it was just passive-aggressive letters in my mailbox, urging me to maintain my property to community standards. I ignored those. My land wasn't part of their development, and I had no obligation to follow their rules. But things really came to a head last month when I decided to repaint my barn. The old red paint was faded and peeling, so I figured a fresh coat would spruce things up. I went with a nice, bright red, just like it had always been. Apparently this didn't sit well with the homeowner association. The day after I finished painting, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Brenda Wilkins, the homeowner association president, standing there with a pinched look on her face. "Mr. Johnson," she said, not even bothering with a greeting, "that barn color is not approved by the Architectural Review Committee. You'll need to repaint it in an earth tone to comply with our community aesthetic guidelines." I blinked at her, momentarily stunned by the sheer audacity. Then I let out a bark of laughter. "Brenda, I appreciate you stopping by, but you seem to be confused. My property isn't part of Willow Creek Estates. I've owned this land for decades, long before your development even existed. Your homeowner association has no authority over me or my barn." Brenda's face reddened. "Now see here, Mr. Johnson. All properties in this area fall under homeowner association jurisdiction. You can't just opt out because you don't like the rules. That garish red barn is an eyesore, and it's bringing down property values. You have 30 days to repaint it or you'll be fined." I shook my head, trying to stay patient. "Brenda, I'm telling you, I'm not a member of your homeowner association. Never have been, never will be. This is private property, and I'll paint my barn whatever color I damn well please. Now please get off my land." I shut the door in her face before she could respond. I figured that would be the end of it, but boy was I wrong. The next few weeks were a constant barrage of threats and harassment from the homeowner association. First came the official violation notices, threatening ever-increasing fines if I didn't repaint the barn. I sent those right back with a letter from my lawyer reiterating that I wasn't subject to homeowner association rules. Then they started sending people to take photos of my property, claiming they were documenting violations. I put up no trespassing signs, but that didn't seem to deter them. Things escalated further when they hired a landscaping crew to come onto my property and start planting shrubs along my fence line, without my permission. I caught them in the act and ordered them off my land. The crew seemed confused, saying the homeowner association had authorized the work. I told them the homeowner association had no right to authorize anything on my property and sent them packing. I thought that would finally get the message across, but instead it only seemed to enrage Brenda and her homeowner association cronies further. The final straw came last Saturday afternoon. I was out in the pasture, brushing down my horses, when I heard a commotion by the house. I walked over to investigate and found 2 police cruisers parked in my driveway. Brenda was there, gesticulating wildly as she talked to the officers. When she saw me approach, she pointed dramatically. "That's him, officers. He's been ignoring homeowner association violations for weeks, and now he's obstructing our efforts to bring the property up to code. I want him arrested for trespassing and vandalism." I stood there in shock for a moment, unable to believe what I was hearing. One of the officers, a young guy who looked fresh out of the academy, started walking towards me with a hand on his belt. "Sir, I'm going to need you to put your hands where I can see them," he said. That snapped me out of my daze. "Now hold on just a minute," I said, keeping my hands visible but not raising them. "There's been a huge misunderstanding here. This is my property. I'm not trespassing, and I'm certainly not vandalizing anything. I've owned this land for 40 years. The older officer stepped forward, looking skeptical. "Sir, we received a complaint from the Homeowners Association about multiple violations and your refusal to comply with community guidelines. They've provided documentation showing all properties in this area are subject to homeowner association regulations." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Officer, I understand you're just doing your job, but that documentation is incorrect. My property predates the Willow Creek development and was never incorporated into their homeowner association. I have the deed and property records to prove it. This woman," I said, gesturing to Brenda, "has been harassing me for weeks because she refuses to accept that fact." Brenda spluttered indignantly. That's a lie. He's trying to weasel out of following the rules that everyone else has to abide by. Just look at that hideous red barn. And he ripped out the lovely landscaping we installed last week. You mean the landscaping you had planted on my property without my permission? I shot back. That's the real trespassing and vandalism here. The older officer held up his hands. All right, let's everyone calm down. Mr. Johnson? Tom Johnson? Mr. Johnson, do you have documentation proving your property isn't part of the homeowner association? I nodded. Yes, sir, I do. It's all in my home office. Would you like to see it? He nodded. I think that would be best. Ma'am, he said, turning to Brenda, I'm going to need to see your documentation as well. Brenda's face had gone from red to pale. I don't have it with me, but I assure you, our lawyers have reviewed everything. This property is definitely under homeowner association jurisdiction. The officer didn't look convinced. Ma'am, we're going to need to see official records, not just your assurance. Mr. Johnson, please lead the way to your office. I brought the officers inside and pulled out my property deed, along with surveys clearly showing my land boundaries. I also had copies of the original Willow Creek development plans, which I'd obtained years ago when they first started building. Those plans clearly showed my property as a separate parcel, not included in the development. The officers reviewed everything carefully. After about 20 minutes, the older one nodded and turned to his partner. Rogers, go explain the situation to the complainant. I'll finish up in here. The younger officer nodded and headed outside. The older one, whose nameplate read Anderson, turned back to me. Mr. Johnson, I apologize for the confusion earlier. Your documentation is in order, and it's clear your property is not subject to homeowner association regulations. You were well within your rights to remove unauthorized landscaping from your land. I let out a relieved sigh. Thank you, Officer Anderson. I appreciate you taking the time to review everything thoroughly. He nodded. Of course. Now, I have to ask, would you like to press charges against the homeowner association for trespassing and vandalism? You'd have a solid case based on the unauthorized landscaping work. I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to, just to teach Brenda and her busybody friends a lesson. But ultimately, I shook my head. No, I don't think that's necessary. I'm just glad this misunderstanding is cleared up. Although, I added, I would appreciate it if you could have a word with them about respecting my property rights going forward. Officer Anderson nodded. I'll make sure they understand the situation clearly. And, Mr. Johnson, if you have any further issues with harassment from the homeowner association, please don't hesitate to call the station and report it. We walked back outside to find Brenda in tears, blubbering to the younger officer. When she saw me emerge with Officer Anderson, she started towards us with a wild look in her eye. This isn't over, Johnson. Our lawyers will. Ma'am, Officer Anderson cut her off sharply. I strongly advise you not to finish that sentence. We've reviewed Mr. Johnson's documentation, and it's clear his property is not part of your homeowner association. Any further attempts to enforce your regulations on his land could be considered harassment. Brenda's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. But the property values? That awful barn? He can't just. He can and he will, Anderson interrupted again. Mr. Johnson has every right to paint his barn whatever color he chooses. Now, we've determined this call was unfounded. I should warn you that making false reports to the police is a serious offense. I'm letting you off with a warning this time, but if it happens again, you could face charges. Do you understand? Brenda nodded meekly, all the fight suddenly gone out of her. Good, Anderson continued. Now I suggest you leave Mr. Johnson's property immediately and refrain from contacting him further unless it's through proper legal channels. Have a good day, folks. With that, the officers got in their cruisers and drove off. Brenda stood there for a moment, shooting daggers at me with her eyes, before turning on her heel and storming off down the road. I breathed a sigh of relief, hoping this would finally be the end of the homeowner association nonsense. But little did I know, this was just the beginning of a much bigger battle. Update. It's been about 6 months since that showdown with Brenda and the police, and I wish I could say that was the end of it. But of course, things are never that simple when you're dealing with petty tyrants like the Willow Creek Homeowner Association. For a few weeks after the police incident, things were blessedly quiet. I thought maybe Brenda and her cronies had finally gotten the message. But then the letters started arriving. Not from the homeowner association this time, but from some fancy law firm in the city. They claimed that despite my property predating the development, it was still subject to homeowner association rules due to some obscure legal principle called implied consent. Apparently, because I hadn't formally objected when the homeowner association was first established, I had tacitly agreed to be part of it. It was complete nonsense, of course, but that didn't stop them from threatening a lawsuit if I didn't comply with their demands. I'll admit, for a moment there I was worried. I'm not a rich man, and the thought of getting dragged into a lengthy legal battle was daunting. But then I remembered something my old man used to say, "Son, sometimes you've got to stand your ground, even when it ain't easy." So I took those letters to my lawyer, Jim Collins. Jim's been handling my legal affairs for years, and he's about as no-nonsense as they come. He read through the homeowner association's claims and let out a snort. "Tom," he said, "this wouldn't hold up in any court in the state. They're trying to scare you into compliance, but they don't have a legal leg to stand on. That was all I needed to hear. Jim drafted up a strongly worded response, basically telling the homeowner association's lawyers where they could stick their implied consent. He also threw in a counter threat of a harassment lawsuit if they didn't back off. We didn't hear anything for a while after that, and I thought maybe that was the end of it. But then one Saturday morning in early spring, I woke up to find a group of people gathered at the edge of my property, right by the road. As I got closer, I realized it was Brenda and about a dozen other Willow Creek residents, holding up signs that said things like "No more eyesores" and "Protect our property values." I couldn't believe it. They were actually picketing my house. I marched right up to Brenda, my temper rising. "What do you think you're doing?" I demanded. Brenda put on a sickly sweet smile. "Oh, we're just exercising our right to peaceful protest, Mr. Johnson. We want to raise awareness about how your refusal to comply with community standards is hurting all of us." I shook my head in disbelief. "Brenda, we've been over this. My property isn't part of your community. You have no right to demand anything from me." "We'll see about that," she sniffed. "Our lawyers assure us we have a strong case. Why don't you just save us all a lot of trouble and paint that horrible barn?" I was about to give her a piece of my mind when I noticed a couple of cars slowing down as they passed. People were starting to stare at the commotion. That's when I realized this wasn't just about pressuring me. This was a publicity stunt. Instead of arguing further, I just turned and walked back to my house. I had a few calls to make. First, I rang up Officer Anderson at the police station. I explained the situation and asked if there was anything they could do. He said that as long as the protesters stayed on public property and didn't block traffic, there wasn't much they could do. But he promised to send a patrol car by regularly to make sure things didn't get out of hand. Next, I called Jim. He listened to my rundown of the situation and let out a long sigh. "They're pushing their luck, Tom," he said. "This is bordering on harassment. Tell you what, let me make a few calls. I've got an idea." True to his word, Jim got the ball rolling. By that afternoon, a reporter from the local newspaper showed up. Turns out Jim had tipped them off about the David versus Goliath story unfolding, a longtime resident being harassed by an overzealous homeowner association. The reporter, a sharp young woman named Sarah, interviewed me about the ongoing dispute. I showed her all my documentation proving my property wasn't part of Willow Creek, as well as the letters from the homeowner association's lawyers. Then we walked over to where Brenda and her group were still protesting. "Mrs. Wilkins," Sarah called out, "I'm with the Daily Herald. Care to comment on why your homeowner association is protesting against a property that legally isn't part of your development?" Brenda looked like a deer in headlights. She stammered something about community standards and property values, but it was clear she wasn't prepared for this kind of scrutiny. The story ran in the Sunday paper, and it was like a bomb went off in our little community. The article painted a clear picture of an overbearing homeowner association trying to bully an innocent homeowner. The comments section of the online version was flooded with people sharing their own homeowner association horror stories. But the real turning point came a few days later. I was out feeding the horses when a car I didn't recognize pulled up. A middle-aged man in a suit got out and introduced himself as Robert Falk, a member of the Willow Creek Homeowner Association Board. "Mr. Johnson," he said, looking uncomfortable. "I was hoping we could talk." I nodded cautiously and invited him in for a coffee. As we sat at my kitchen table, Robert got straight to the point. "That newspaper article has stirred up a lot of trouble," he said. "We've been flooded with calls and emails from residents questioning the homeowner association's actions. Some are even talking about disbanding the homeowner association entirely." I couldn't help but smile a little at that. "Well, Mr. Falk, maybe that'll teach Brenda to mind her own business." He nodded slowly. "Yes, well, the board has had a lengthy discussion, and we've come to a decision. We're prepared to officially recognize that your property is not part of Willow Creek Estates and is not subject to our regulations. In return, we're hoping you'll agree not to pursue any legal action against the homeowner association for the misunderstandings of the past few months." I leaned back in my chair, considering his offer. Part of me wanted to tell him where he could stick his offer after all the hassle they'd put me through. But then I thought about the potential for a long, drawn-out legal battle, even if I was in the right. "All right," I said finally. "I'll agree to that, on one condition. I want it in writing, notarized, that my property is exempt from all current and future homeowner association rules, and I want a public apology from Brenda for the harassment." Robert winced at that last part but nodded. "I think we can manage that. Thank you for being reasonable about this, Mr. Johnson. I know it's been a difficult situation." True to their word, the homeowner association delivered a notarized document the very next day, officially recognizing my property as separate from Willow Creek Estates. And at the next homeowner association meeting, which I got to attend as an observer, Brenda stood up and gave a grudging apology for the misunderstanding regarding my property. It wasn't the most sincere apology I've ever heard, but it was enough. As I walked out of that meeting, several Willow Creek residents came up to shake my hand and congratulate me on standing my ground. These days, things are pretty quiet around here. My barn is still as red as ever, and I haven't gotten so much as a dirty look from Brenda in weeks. I even noticed a couple other houses in Willow Creek sporting some colorful new paint jobs. Seems Seems like my stand against the homeowner association inspired a few others to assert their individuality. Looking back, I'm glad I stuck to my guns. It would have been easier to give in and repaint the barn, but some things are worth fighting for. This land has been my home for 4 decades, and nobody has the right to tell me how to live on it. As for Brenda and the homeowner association, I hear they've been keeping a much lower profile lately. Rumor has it that there's a movement among the residents to significantly reduce the homeowner association's powers. I can't say I'm sad to hear it. In the end, I guess the whole ordeal taught me something my daddy always used to say: stand up for what's right, even if you're standing alone. Turns out, if you stand your ground long enough, you might just find you're not alone after all. The next one is an entitled people story. I've been married to my wife for 3 years and together for 5. Our son just turned 2 in early June, and to put it bluntly, he looks biracial. His skin is darker than I thought it would have been. He has curly hair when we most certainly don't, and his features just don't look like the standard white people which we are. He's a beautiful boy. He just doesn't look 100% white. I asked my wife a few days after his birthday if she thought our son looked white. She said yes and asked if I'm accusing her of something. I said no because I genuinely wasn't. I just was wondering. I know genetics can be weird sometimes. We fought, and I apologized, but I wasn't able to shake the feeling, so I did the crappy thing and got a test done behind my wife's back. The results came in a few days ago, and I'm not my son's dad. I feel conflicted about my son. I love him, but knowing that he isn't mine is leaving a sour taste in my mouth. Our son definitely prefers me and he's my world, but he's just not biologically mine. I don't know what to make of my feelings. I'm a mix of emotions about my wife. I don't know how to talk to her. I'm angry, confused, and feeling very, very betrayed. I'm heartbroken too. I still love her. She's working at the moment, and I don't want to disturb her at her office, but I feel like I'm going to explode. This is all very difficult for me to process, and I can't think of when my wife cheated. We always had each other's locations for safety purposes, and I can't think of any suspicious friends that she has or had. We go on regular dates and our bedroom isn't dead. We were also trying for a baby around that time, so I don't know when she cheated on me or why. Ever since we married, she's been over the moon, constantly showing off her ring and talking about me. She's like a teenager in love. How do I tell her that I know? Or get that ball rolling? I don't know what I want to do yet, as stupid as that sounds. I've been stewing on it for a few days, but I still love her so much. Maybe someone can knock some sense into me? I need help. Update. I don't know if anyone will see this, as the subreddit I posted to doesn't allow updates after 48 hours, but hello if you do. Getting the bad news out the way first: my son isn't mine. I feel devastated and will be divorcing my wife. My wife and I had talked about our son a few days after my post, and my wife cracked under the pressure. She admitted to cheating on me without me even mentioning the test I had gotten done. All I asked was if she really thought our son looked white. I mean it when I say that if his skin never got darker, I wouldn't have known. She cried a lot and begged for forgiveness, and told me that we can all still be a happy family, but my image of her shattered right then and there. I'm going through heartbreak, so forgive any mistakes. I'm currently living with my parents. I asked her when she even found the time to cheat on me, and she told me that she would leave her phone in a location and use another. She told me that cheating was a mistake and an accident, but how was it a mistake if you had it so planned out? We were trying for a baby around then, and she told me that she couldn't handle the pressure of it all and just wanted to escape. She didn't escape very well if she still got pregnant and acted like we were perfect. Thank you again to everyone. My wife will now be known as my ex-wife. I apologize to anyone who had hope and thought it was a baby switched at birth situation. I'm somewhat happy it wasn't, because that would be terrible, but extremely disappointed because that means he really isn't mine. There won't be any more DNA tests because she admitted to everything and showed me some text messages. There won't be any more updates for me either because I just want to move on with my life. I'll get everything sorted and figure out the whole custody thing. Thanks again, everyone. Goodbye. The next one is an entitled people story. I, 16F, have been a part of my school's theater company since I was in middle school. Theater means a lot to me, and it's given me a community of silly, talented, amazing people that make up my core friend group. While they would get all the leads for each show, both at our school and local community theaters, I never got anything higher than an ensemble part or a part with a few lines, and it always hurt me a lot because I would feel excluded. I've never let myself feel too discouraged by this, and I've been able to do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff for shows I'm not a huge part of, like building sets, making props, and directing. This would always be super fun, but never as fun as being on stage and being a part of all the inside jokes my other friends would bring up outside of rehearsals, and this only added to me feeling excluded. Anyway, me and my friends all auditioned for a local teen production of Little Shop of Horrors last week, with 4 of us, including me, all auditioning for Audrey. We audition, and I think I do pretty well, but part of me knows I won't get the part. Well, yesterday, the cast list came out, and to my surprise, I got Audrey. I'm so excited and still buzzing over the fact that I finally have a lead, and one of my dream roles no less. All of my friends were extremely supportive, and there was no tension among any of us over the results of the cast list. So I accepted the part right away before dancing around my room and going out for ice cream with my friends. When I got back, I texted my boyfriend of a year, 17M, about the news, expecting congratulations and excitement, since he knows how big of a deal finally getting a lead is for me. But instead, he told me I should reject the part because I'd have to kiss the guy playing Seymour, and also generally act romantically around him on stage, and that makes him uncomfortable. The guy playing Seymour is one of my close friends I've known since 7th grade, and our relationship has always been purely platonic. He also has a boyfriend of his own. I can see how my boyfriend would be uncomfortable since I'd be acting romantically with someone who isn't him, and with someone I'm pretty close to. I told him I already accepted my part and he left me on read, and I don't really know how I'm feeling at the moment. I'm hurt because he hasn't congratulated me, but I feel bad for potentially hurting him and accepting the part without talking to him about how it would affect our relationship. Am I the a-hole for accepting the part? Update. Hello everybody. I doubt anyone remembers me, but I haven't been on Reddit much since I posted the original post, and I stumbled onto the website tonight, saw my post from 3 months ago, and decided that at 12:26 in the morning, I would update everyone who wants to know about my situation, which, spoiler alert, has thankfully been resolved. If you didn't see my original post from 3 months ago, you should go read it for context. Smile. First off, thank you so much to everyone who left such sweet, amazing comments. I had to break my legs about 200 plus times thanks to you, and I still feel so appreciated and encouraged by all the nice things you had to say. Anyway, this post is probably already too long and it only gets longer. So here's the actual story. After a few hours of the post going up, I texted my boyfriend at the time to try and start a conversation about what was going on, to no avail. When he picked me up from my house to take me to school the next day, he didn't say anything, and when we got to school, he parked and told me that he wanted to break up with me, because I didn't seem to care that I had voluntarily signed up to be romantic with another guy without talking to him about it first. Never mind that this guy he's speaking of is gay, and probably would rather eat moldy cheese off of a basketball court than make out with me. And never mind that his boyfriend was totally cool with it because it's acting and not a threat to his relationship. I tried explaining some of this to him, but he merely turned off the car, got out of the car and slammed the door. I was, of course, upset because we had been dating for a year and, up to this point, everything had been going great. But some of the comments have made me realize that by being blindsided, my boyfriend never believed I could achieve my dreams, and that's an automatic deal breaker for me. Also, he was a high school boyfriend, and I will most likely forget about him, but I will never forget the incredible experience working on this show has been. My current course of action is to completely ghost him and move on with my life, and then when he least expects it, I'll feed him to Audrey too, as some of you suggested. Opening night was last night, and it was one of the best ducking experiences of my entire life. Also, as a quick lil bonus, I'm currently dating the girl that's playing Chiffon and it's going great. We really bonded over the show and she's amazing. Overall, I'm very happy. Thank you again to everyone. And remember, they may offer you fortune and fame, love and money and instant acclaim, but whatever they offer you, don't feed the plants. The next one is an entitled people story. We moved into a new house about a year ago so that my son, who turns 4 next month, can have his own room. We thought the transition would be rough, but he took to his room almost immediately and have had no issues. He loved his room, has all his toys in there, bedtime routines went smoothly. Most nights he dozes off after a couple of stories and a smooch on the head. He has his night lights and we keep his door open, even though he never mentioned being scared of the dark. Something changed on July 4th. He spent a good chunk of the afternoon playing in his room, even refusing to come downstairs for a bit. That same night and every night since, he refuses to go into his room at all, insisting on sleeping in our room. He won't go in with us holding hands, and if we're able to get him in for a second to retrieve a specific toy, he won't go all the way in and then immediately run away back down the hall. He has no problem taking a bath in his bathroom across the hall, but he insists we keep the bathroom door closed. Then he runs straight from the bathroom to our room. We have asked him in all sorts of ways why he doesn't want to go in his room, and he'll deflect either by screaming "COW boy hat," a la Muffin, or giggle while naming every animal he can think of. We're guessing he had a nightmare at some point, but he did spend the afternoon in his room with no problem on the day this started. We're not getting anywhere here, and as a result I've been sleeping in his room while he shares our bed with my husband. Maybe I'm looking for someone who had a similar experience with their child that can offer up some fresh ideas, or maybe I'm just venting because I miss my bed. Arg? Update. After exactly 1 month, I finally figured it out. I've been busy but wanted to update because I still am so stoked he's back in his room. A few days ago, I got my son to acknowledge a couple of his toys from the doorway, and he stepped in a little bit with encouragement. I then took the opportunity to point at objects in his room, and he had a huge reaction to a Marvel poster that had been hanging over his bed since we moved in a year ago. He ran to our bedroom and hid under our covers, so I took it off the wall and walked it through the hallway. I stopped at our room for confirmation, and he freaked out when he saw I was holding it. I told him that it's going in the garbage and he's never going to see it ever again. I hid it downstairs for later disposal, came back upstairs and told him it was gone. He leapt out of our bed and hurried down the hall to his room and jumped in excitement that evil face is gone. He then screamed in excitement about his Mario Kart bed, tossed my pillow off, threw his Mario pillow on and tucked himself in. I was so ecstatic I danced around with him the rest of the night singing "No More Evil Face." We played with all the toys he missed. He slept in his room that night, and has since been spending even more time in his room playing by himself. He brings up nightly that evil face is gone and his room is fun. To those who are curious, it was a Marvel framed poster with like 100 plus superheroes and villains. He had always named even some of the more obscure characters. My husband is a comic book guy and passed on this knowledge. I'm not sure which character scared him in particular, but I theorize it was either MODOK or Ego the Living Planet. I didn't stop to have him point out which was the evil face. The next one is an entitled people story. My partner and I have been together for nearly 6 years. He has honestly been the most amazing, wonderful, and supportive person in my life. He doesn't just make me happier, he makes me healthier. He's been absolutely fantastic in every way imaginable. About 2 years ago, we had the big marriage talk. We were both honest about what we wanted. He admitted that getting married made him so nervous. He has literally never seen a successful marriage. Every marriage he's ever witnessed has either ended in disastrous divorce or very sad premature death. I said I would stay with him whatever he chose, but there are some things I wouldn't do unless we were married. Just as he's seen too many marriages fail, I've seen too many loved ones be abandoned by men once the kids come along or when he finds a better option. In other words, as long as we weren't married, no kids and our finances remained strictly untangled from each other. He proposed to me a few months after that, and since then, he's turned into an absolute nightmare. First, he refuses to do anything wedding-related but accuses me of taking over and being a bridezilla when I make decisions without him. He does things behind my back like inviting our friend who has 4 kids to bring the children. When we agreed the only exception to the no kids rule would be my niece, who will be 3 months old, and for obvious reasons can't be separated from my sister for the weekend. I can swallow that frustration, but he's also become hypercritical. Any mess around the house, even if he made it, if I haven't cleaned it up by the time he gets home, he refuses to talk to me. I work from home, so I usually do a lot of the chores like the dishwasher in my lunch break, but sometimes I don't have time. This is a busy time of year, and while my job is usually constrained to the 9 to 5, in the last few weeks I've had to work until 8 or 9. When he stormed in last night angry that he had to clean the kitchen, I pointed out I'd been working for 12 hours straight. He looked me in the eyes and said so. He's threatened to throw me out the house and call off the engagement 4 times. He's stopped initiating sex. I've come to dread the sound of the door unlocking because he can't go 5 minutes without finding a problem to have with me. It's so bad that my mother, who was ready to adopt him a year ago, is refusing to be the witness that signs our marriage certificate. I've asked to call off the wedding, go back to being just girlfriend and boyfriend, but he says he really does want to get married, and he's just doing all of this to make sure he's making the right choice. Increasingly though, all he's done is convince me I'm making the wrong one. Update. This has honestly been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I'm back in with my parents, which is awful. I hate it. I feel like a teenager again. They're being very supportive, and I'm grateful I had somewhere to go, but the house is so damn loud, and I forgot what it was like. I'm trying to find an affordable apartment, but it's London, so that feels like a bit of a pipe dream. To top it all off, canceling a wedding a month before is expensive. Only the celebrant and the photographer have accepted refunds. Every other vendor has been paid in full, and that's money just flushed down the toilet. It's been exhausting. Before this, I was in a pretty great financial situation. I had savings and a plan and a house and a financially stable partner. Now I have less than 1/10 of my savings, nowhere to live and no real prospect for the future. It's not easy processing losing him, not easy at all. I'm still in the part where everything makes me cry, and you feel like someone has taken scissors to your soul, but I've experienced both grief and breakups. I know this feeling will eventually fade, even if it might never completely disappear. When it's mixed in with the relief of being able to exist without criticism every 5 minutes, I'm hopeful it will pass sooner rather than later. But I have no experience for this kind of existential fear of being alone, not having the family I've wanted for so long, not knowing what's next, actually trying to date someone. When I was little, I never knew what I wanted for my career, other than that I had one, but I always knew I wanted to be a mom. That dream feels like it's getting further and further away every day. I have no experience for this burning embarrassment of telling everyone in your life that the wedding they were invited to isn't happening. It was so painful telling his niece and nephew I wasn't going to be seeing them again. They cried and clung to me and begged me not to go, and they ripped my heart out. It's easy on Reddit to tell someone to end things, but when you've built a life together, disentangling it is so bloody difficult. A divorce would be easier because then we'd have a legal framework for all of this. Instead, I have to decide if I want to take him to court for the custody of my cat, when I don't have a proper place to house her, but she's my cat. You might have noticed I've avoided really talking about my ex. We're communicating through our parents. He tried to reach out several times, but if I talk to him, I know I will do what I always do. I will buckle and take him back because I love him very, very much. I've been in therapy, again courtesy of my parents, and my therapist has to keep reminding me to love myself more than I love him. I miss him anyway. He's promised to change, promised couples counseling, promised he knows he was wrong, but he also hasn't said the word sorry yet. Such a small word, and yet so telling. He's been generally pretty accommodating to me. Expenses have been split 50-50, which is fair but certainly a worse deal for me. He left the house so I could gather my things in peace. I can tell from the state of it this has hit him hard. The cats have been the only sticking point, and I understand why. The house is old and creaks. Being there alone isn't fun. Neither of us liked it when we were alone, and a large part of the reason we got cats was for the company at night when the other was away. I'm sorry if this wasn't the update you wanted to hear. My mind is all over the place. The next one is an entitled people story. I have had to rewrite this multiple different times now as I keep breaking down. I don't know what to do, and I am completely lost. So apologies for any spelling errors or mistakes, as I'm not in the best place mentally. Note that all names are fake so that he doesn't find this hopefully. Now a little backstory. I promise it will make sense. 9 years ago I met my boyfriend, Adrian. I was in 9th grade, and he was in 11th. He had moved in next door, and because we were too close for buses, but too far to walk, he offered to drive me every day. Even after graduating, he drove me. We got really close, and he became my best friend. We started dating 5 years ago. At that time, I began writing my first story, and Adrian's mom, as an author herself, began helping me. Together we wrote, edited, and got my book ready to publish. Then, in 2019, she passed away unexpectedly. Everyone was distraught, and I decided not to publish the book. Instead, I pushed myself more into work, working 16-hour days, and up until a year ago I continued to do this. Adrian and I bought a little duplex and moved in together. We rented the other half of it to a friend of his. Now, I've been getting into writing again and have cut back to working 12 hours a day. Over the course of the last decade, I've been buying books. I've spent a good $3,000 on books, and have like 175 bought myself at this point. I have another 50 that I got from his mom before she passed, and also left in the will for me, and then a handful from friends over the years. Last time I went through them, I had 300 books. Now I know this might seem intense, but I have read almost every single one of these. Whenever I get a chance at work, when I have a day off, when I can't sleep, I read. Reading is the way I cope, I guess. Adrian knows how important my books are. He knows how much time, money, and energy I've put into getting them all and keeping them looking good. He himself has read a good bit of them and helps me take care of them. Last week we got into an argument. I don't remember what it was about, just that it lasted from the time I get off until almost noon. So at the least it lasted 7 hours. Most of it was him screaming at me. I don't know if I fell asleep or what, but I genuinely don't remember any of it. However, it did end with him storming out of the house and leaving. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, and immediately I went to the spare room and started reading. It wasn't until he came in an hour before I had to leave for work that I stopped reading. When I got off work the next morning, I immediately went home, took a shower, and fell asleep. I woke up to the fire alarm going off, and my husband frantically running around trying to get them to stop. Immediately I went into the spare room to see if everything was okay. My books, specifically the shelf that had been gifted to me, were smoking. Some of them were on the floor. I asked him what had happened, and apparently he was playing with this new flame torch lighter when it caught one of my books on fire. It was on the top shelf, so while it wasn't too bad and he was able to get them out, there was a few books, the ones he threw on the floor. I asked him what book caught on fire, and he didn't respond. Instead, he just teared up and pointed. On the ground was the book his mom and I wrote together. I lost it. I asked him to leave, and when he tried to refuse, I threatened to call the police. It took 5 minutes of us arguing before I burst into tears and he finally left. It's been almost a week now. I haven't responded to him at all. I changed the locks on the house, and even informed his friends that if they let him into my part of the house, I'd have all of them arrested. Last night, his father called me. We talked, and while he said that he understood why I was hurt, he thought I should let Adrian come back and try to fix it. I don't know if I can though. I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know what to do, and I just need advice. Update. A few months ago I posted on here about my boyfriend burning a book that was very important to me. Multiple books actually. A few days after that post, my brother, Isaiah, M29, Adrian and Adrian's dad, All had lunch together a few days later when my brother and I both got time off. I want to say it went well, that we talked and agreed on breaking up and that we went our separate ways, but that would be a lie. We got there, and Adrian wasn't there. His father had said that he had been out all night and so he was still asleep, but that he would join us when he woke up. So we waited another half hour before he finally showed up. We ordered and ate in silence until Adrian's dad asked when Adrian was allowed to move back in. Before I could say anything, Isaiah told them that he couldn't until I was moved out. Adrian didn't like this, and it quickly moved into a screaming match. I don't remember much after this. What I do know is that Isaiah and I left not long after, and when we got back home, we started packing my stuff. I have been living with him since. I have taken your guys' advice and tried to report him to the authorities or get a restraining order, but they wouldn't take my report, as he had never been physically abusive towards me, and they didn't deem him a threat towards me. We then went and found a lawyer just in case something happens, and because I just know Adrian will start trouble with the house and cars. So I guess we're just preparing for that. Now for the good updates? I got into a doctor who believes I have a dissociate disorder and is sending me to a specialist. However, that is still a few months out. I am also going to be talking to a counselor twice a week starting sometime this month. I haven't gotten a new job in hospice yet, but honestly I don't think I want to at this moment. For the last month I've been doing some smaller jobs such as babysitting, tutoring, and dog walking. In the meantime, I've been reading a lot more and have also been getting back into writing. I've actually recently discovered fan fiction and have joined a book group in my area. I'm going to be honest, I'm happier than I have been in a very long time. Since before my dad came back at least, he did a lot of damage to not only me but also to Isaiah, and we are both just starting to recover from it. So yeah, that's my update. Thank you to everyone who have helped me so far, but I think this might be the last time I use this account, so thank you. The next one is an entitled people story. I know, I'm aware of my faults. I know I screwed up. She and I had something beautiful. She is still the love of my life. We were together for 10 years, 2 dating and 8 married, but I made a huge mistake and cheated on her. It was just once, just one damn time. Somehow she found out. I never knew how because I haven't been able to talk to her since then. I guess she found something on my phone. I came home that afternoon as usual and everything felt weird. The house felt emptier. I quickly realized that her things were gone. I panicked. I started calling her over and over, but her phone didn't even ring. Suddenly I saw some papers on the table. She was divorcing me. Under the divorce papers, there was a note that said, "This is what you do with cheaters." That was the last thing I got from her 2 years ago now. Of course I called the contact information for her lawyer, who has been the only bridge between us. But he just told me that he was her legal representative, and that she didn't want to see me. I fought, I got angry, but in the end her lawyer just told me that it would be better if I got my own lawyer. I didn't want to. I absolutely refused to accept that 10 years of relationship would end like this. I know I have failed, but I always wanted to fix it. I know that if she gave me the chance, I could make that sweet and special girl I met more than 10 years ago fall in love with me again. I know that I can make her forgive me. After all, many couples go through similar things and get over it. Why can't we be one more couple in that statistic? Why after 8 years of marriage am I thrown away like garbage for a mistake? I don't deserve so much indifference. I haven't been able to see her or even hear her voice in 2 years. 2 years of not being able to see or talk to the person you love the most is too much of a punishment. This situation has destroyed me emotionally, mentally, and even physically. I ended up consuming an unhealthy amount of alcohol, weeks of barely eating, not sleeping. I was a zombie for months. I was just functioning on automatic. I wanted to die, but I couldn't let myself die because I always held on to hope that she would come back. My therapist says it's really hard when you can't get closure from a relationship because your mind can't process that the relationship is over. So you're always thinking that person will knock on the door or that you'll wake up from sleep and they'll be there by your side. The divorce was finalized over a year ago. I'll be honest, I didn't make it easy. I didn't want to get divorced and I still don't understand how we can be divorced. I asked for couples therapy but she refused. I know from my lawyer that her lawyer advised her to go at least once or twice, but she refused. It took quite a while, but finally the divorce happened. I can't even describe the feeling. I felt, and still feel, like if a piece of me had been cut out. I know I hurt her. I know I failed, but I think we all deserve a second chance. When I couldn't take the pain anymore, I decided to start therapy. My therapist doesn't give me advice to get her back. He only focuses on me moving on with my life, encouraging me to meet new people and go out on dates, but I don't want to. At this point, I'm not even interested in sex anymore. A few days ago, something happened that completely shattered me. I was having a few beers with my friend at my house. Let's call him Nick. We were both pretty drunk. I started talking about my wife, and he said to me, "You should put more effort into getting over her. She's over you, and is happy having a life away from you. You should do the same. You can't live in this self-pity all your life." Something in his words hit me, but not in the way he expected. He spoke with a lot of confidence that my wife is over me and is happy now. How does he know that? At this point, I got angry and started pressuring him to talk. He refused. I pressed as hard as I could. I cried. I begged him to tell me if he knew something. I needed to know something about her. Until he finally told me. His wife has been in contact with my wife for the last year. They were great friends, and I remember Sabrina, my friend's wife, being very sad about losing contact with my wife. The thing is that my wife went to live in Norway, got married to a guy there, and is about 7 months pregnant. I felt like dying. I literally felt like dying with this information. How could she do this to me? How could it be that while I was crying, getting drunk, missing her and wanting to die every day, she was happily on the other side of the world, getting married, ducking, and getting pregnant by another guy? How could it be that she didn't have a child with me in many, many years, to the point that I thought she was infertile, but she got pregnant by this new guy so easily? Where did this guy come from? I have no answers for absolutely anything, and I feel like I can't go on with my life without these answers. The only thing I can think of is that she had revenge sex with the first Norwegian guy she came across, and got pregnant and decided to keep the baby. Maybe she got married because she wanted to stay in that country legally, and I guess like in most countries, getting married is a good option for that. I don't know. These thoughts are killing me. I refuse to think that she is in love with him. I need to contact her. I need to talk to her. I need to know what's going on, because she acts like our 10-year history and 8-year marriage is nothing to her. I need advice on how to act. I feel the impulse of travel to where she is and look for her, but how could I do that? I don't know what city she's in. I don't know where she lives. I don't have a number to contact her. She closed her social media. Her family is small. They don't live in the same country as me, and all of them blocked me. I'm totally lost. I don't know what to do at this point. I still want her back. Yes, even pregnant. I feel like if this is a nightmare and I need to wake up now. Update. These days have been very strange at times. I feel numb and at others desperate. A lot of things have happened. I want to start by answering something and then I will update. Some people asked why Norway? I don't know exactly, but she is a polyglot. She speaks 6 languages. Many of these languages are connected to cultures that she always liked. Norwegian is just one of them. She has always been interested in Norwegian culture. She has been there before, but she is also interested in other cultures and speaks other languages, so for me that was never an indicator that she might have gone to this country. Regarding the update, the first thing I will say is that the post reached some people in my circle. Sabrina's sister is on Reddit. She knows the story and realized it was me. She told Sabrina? Sabrina is angry at Nick for revealing information. Nick is angry at me for posting on Reddit and because he says I pressured him to talk. I am angry at both of them for being 2A holes who watched me suffer for 2 years and decided not to help me. They didn't care about my marriage. Why should I care about their marriage? Sabrina could have given me my ex-wife phone number a long time ago, but she decided to prioritize her friendship with my ex instead of helping 2 friends mend their marriage. Meanwhile, no one cared about my feelings. I'm done with them at this point. Regarding to my ex-wife, I've been thinking a lot. She can't just disappear. I convinced myself that if I searched hard enough I could find something related to her. I follow some of her relatives from a fake Instagram account, but I never found anything related to her. I searched a lot, really a lot, and found a name that I had seen before but that hadn't caught my attention until then. It was a lady with a name that is not typical in the United States or my wife's country. She is not American, and a very strange last name. I went to her Instagram profile and she had no pictures or anything. Just a small profile picture that you can barely see. I decided to look her up on Facebook and found the same lady with the same profile picture. Only her Facebook profile is quite open. She is indeed a lady from Norway. I checked everything I could on this profile. I was convinced that it had something to do with my wife. How else would a relative of hers have this woman and their friends? I saw a lot of pictures, people, plants, mountains, gardens, lakes, flowers, typical things that an older lady posts, until I came across a picture where my ex was dressed as a bride hugging a guy. I had to translate the text. The lady was congratulating her son on his wedding. There were a few more pictures, not many. There were even some members of my ex's family in the wedding pictures. The dates of the pictures were from a year ago. A year ago she married this guy. I don't understand. How could it happen so fast? When did she meet him? I honestly thought she got married after she got pregnant, not before. This baffles me even more. After that I found another picture. It was a group picture, and she was far away, but of course I recognized her. The same guy was with his hands on her shoulders, hugging her. This picture was from February 2023. To be clear, she left in May 2022. How is she with someone in February 2023? Only 9 months and she's already in a stable enough relationship that he's introduced her to his family? What the hell is going on here? I feel like I have even more questions in my head now. I know I shouldn't be upset, but I am. I know I lost her because I was an idiot, but it's hard to get this feeling out of my head right now. Anyways, for those who had imagined this fantasy that my ex is with some kind of Norwegian Chris Hemsworth, let me tell you, it's not like that. This guy is too tall, too blonde, too pale, hair too long and kind of chunky to be honest. He looks more like the old cartoon of Vikings, and is definitely not a Chris Hemsworth. I managed to find his FB profile, but he has almost nothing there. His profile says he's an engineer who wears metal band t-shirts at 38. I don't know how to take this because I'm an engineer myself, just in a different field. Why would she look for a man with the same profession as me? My wife has always liked heavy metal, which I always found nasty, but I never complained. After all, your partner doesn't have to have the same musical tastes as you. I mention this because maybe that was the way they connected. She used to connect easily with people who like the same type of music. I don't know, but I honestly look at it and think, where did she get this guy from? I meant he can definitely do better than this. The pregnancy thing still messes with my head. I try not to think about it. I can't understand it. I'm not infertile like the comments suggest. I've been to the doctor and I know I'm not. But God, it kills me to think that she's going to have another man's child. I don't get it. I feel like this is beyond anything I ever imagined. And no, I'm not going to go to Norway. I'm not going to try to contact her. I still want to see her and talk to her, but I obviously can't force her to do that. I have too much to deal with right now and too much to talk about in therapy. If by any chance this post reaches my ex, I want you to know that I still love you. You know where to contact me. If by any chance this post reaches the new dude, I want you to know the only reason you have a chance with this woman is because a big idiot halfway across the world completely ruined it. You most probably met a woman who was probably very broken from her divorce. You took advantage of her situation and trapped her with a baby. You don't know how to play fair. Sabrina and Nick, duck you. The next one is an entitled people story. My 38F, husband, 40M, and I have been together for 17 years, married for almost 15, and we have 5 kids, ranging from a teenager to a toddler. Everything in our relationship is great. He's an amazing husband and father. He provides everything we have, makes sure my emotional and physical needs are met. He makes sure we're always having fun, and things are exciting. He showers me with affection, brings me flowers often. He's everything I could possibly want. I try to be the most loving and affectionate wife I can be for him, and always tell him that I love and appreciate him. Yesterday morning, I saw 2 texts on my husband's phone from a woman's name. I didn't recognize that. Said come and get it, and you'll be surprised with red hearts at the end of both messages. I was too shocked and mentally distraught to say anything and pretended that everything was okay. I couldn't check his phone since he left for work almost immediately after the notifications came. He came home close to an hour later last night and just said that there was traffic, but I was tracking his location, and he went out of his way and stopped in some random neighborhood for about 30 minutes. I thought we were in a great place, so I really don't want to believe he's cheating, but all the evidence points towards it. We watched a movie together last night and took the kids to the beach with some family friends today, but I'm still spiraling over this and don't know what to do. He has a wife and 5 beautiful kids who love him. I just can't understand why he would throw all that away. How do I find out the truth? Update. Well, this was all a massive waste of time. 2. To clarify, there were no telltale signs of him cheating. He's very emotionally present, and we have an active sex life, and he's as loving and affectionate as usual, and he doesn't hide his phone or mysteriously disappear for hours. The thing is, after our youngest was born, I developed an eating disorder, and I gained close to 35 pounds in the following 2 years, and my confidence and self-esteem at our sex life was terrible during that time. For about the last year, I joined my husband in his early morning workouts and started watching my diet and cooking healthier for the family, and am down 15 pounds since. My husband was always very reassuring and affectionate, and my confidence has begun to return a little, and our sex life is infinitely better than those 2 years. But I still feel somewhat insecure, especially since my husband has only gotten fitter and become even more muscular throughout our marriage. To the point, I suck at lying and hiding things from my husband, so I couldn't go with a reverse psychology approach like some people suggested. Last night, after the kids went to bed, I directly told my husband that I saw the messages on his phone and tracked his location to some random neighborhood, and demanded to know what was going on. He laughed and thought I was joking, and I quite literally started crying and said that I was serious and I needed the truth. He told me that we had to go outside and he wanted to show me something. He opened the trunk of his car and there was a plastic bag and he told me to open it. It was a photo album consisting of chronological pictures of us and the kids for all 15 years of our marriage, and it was meant to be an anniversary gift for our 15th later this week. The texts were from a female coworker, whose husband runs a business making photo albums for special occasions, and my husband had been talking to her about getting a customized photo album made. On Friday night, he went to their place to pick up the album, and as for the red hearts in her messages, my husband showed me his conversation with her, and she ends every single message with a red heart. The specific texts I saw were there, so I knew he hadn't deleted anything. He made jokes about how I ruined his anniversary gift, and we ended up staying up and going through the entire album and talking about old memories, and all I can say is I'm very thankful for my husband in every way. That's the end of that. The next one is an entitled people story. Firstly, please reserve judgment until the end. If you still think I'm a bad person after reading this, I won't stop you. I'm a 30-year-old man. My mom was a foster carer for the last 11 years before she passed away, and she made me promise that I would take over when she died. She had heart failure, but had lived from 7 years after diagnosis. She had 2 foster children, John and Paul. John came to live with us when I was 19 years old and he was 8, and had severe behavioral issues linked to his trauma. My world was turned upside down, but I very quickly grew to love him. Underneath the trauma and the difficulties, he was an amazing boy who I loved with my entire heart. He's now 19 himself and still lives with me. He just finished high school and I have no plans to move him out until he is ready. John and I have a great relationship. On the other hand, Paul is 16 years old. He came to live with us when he was 9. Paul has severe special needs, and no matter how much I've tried, I just cannot connect with him in the same way I did for John. Whereas John's behaviors needs never bothered me, with Paul they do. I find him frustrating, and I have to remind myself that he is only on the same level as a 3/4-year-old mentally, and it's not fair that I get frustrated at him. When Mom was still alive, she took the main role of looking after Paul, and I supported her, which was okay. But I knew that when she was gone, I would struggle with him by myself. I didn't sign up to do this. I didn't sign up to look after him for the rest of my life. I just didn't. Mom died 6 months ago, and I said to myself I would try. I kept Paul for all this time, but I just can't cope with him. I can't. I told my social worker that he needs to be moved by the end of the month because I just can't manage. I want to continue fostering, and I love being a foster carer, but I just cannot meet his needs, and it was different when Mom was still alive. I feel so guilty because I made my mom a promise that I would care for him until he was at least 18, but I'm building resentment to him, and it isn't fair on him. He deserves to have someone who loves and cares for him in the ways that I just can't. So yeah, call me selfish, call me scum, whatever, I deserve it. Update. It has now been a few days since Paul moved out, so I thought I would give a little update. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who took the time to read my previous post and for those who offered support and understanding. It meant a lot, honestly. Paul has been placed with a new family who specialize in caring for children with severe special needs. I believe this is the best environment for him, and he seems to be settling in well. I am keeping in touch with his new carers, and they've assured me that he's receiving the care and attention he needs. At first, the house felt different, quieter, but also emptier. There's a lingering sense of guilt, but I'm also more at peace knowing he's in a place better suited to his needs. John and I have had more time to spend together, which has been nice. We've talked a lot about everything that's happened, and I'm grateful for his understanding and support. I've also started seeing a therapist to help work through the guilt I've been feeling and to help me grieve. Yesterday, my agency reached out saying they have 2 little boys needing housing for a short-term placement. They said initially 6 weeks, but it could be extended. They are coming tomorrow, and I am excited. They're 9 and 11 and are coming directly from their birth families. This will be my first proper placement, so I would be lying if I said I didn't feel a little anxious. Thank you again to everyone who reached out. The next one is an entitled people story. My fiancé has the biggest heart, would literally give you the shirt, pants and hat off his body if you asked for it. He's a recovering people pleaser, and I get it because I also used to be a people pleaser. We've been together 5+ years. A few months ago, I started picking up on his best friend making some not so nice comments towards me. I'm trying to be vague, but let's just say this friend is the type to read who in the room would be most affected by being picked on. And then he picks and picks and picks on them until they can't take it anymore. Nobody ever really holds him accountable for this, and unfortunately I have somehow become his favorite target. I tried to put up with these comments, but it started getting really elaborate. The friend would make up lies about me saying things I never said. He once called me in front of all our friends, my fiancé included, just to yell "you're a bad friend" into the phone and then hang up. There's so much to it that I can't share because I'm trying to be somewhat anonymous. It started having an effect on me and my mental health, and I ended up having a full breakdown where I told my fiancé how much this was all starting to hurt me. The first time I broke down over this, he said he would talk to his friend about teasing/messing with me less. He then told me his friend was sorry, and that he'd be keeping an ear out for any other comments, and he'd jump to my defense if it happened again. A few weeks later I had a second breakdown over all this. The situation itself is hitting a very specific childhood trauma/trigger for me, and he admitted that his friend didn't actually apologize. He actually said he was sorry I was too sensitive to understand his humor. At that point, I told my fiancé my friendship with this person is over, and I want zero contact from here on out, even if it means I have to miss out on events and parties that I'd otherwise love to go to. He agreed with me that all of this is being done with the intention to get a rise out of me, and that even if we tried to get through to this friend, he's so diabolical that we could never fully trust him to not treat me at least a little bit crappy. My fiancé kept asking if this meant he had to quit the project they're working on. I told him I would never tell him he had to because I know how much it means to him. But in all honesty, the fact that this person is treating me so poorly that I'm having physical stress reactions isn't enough for him to want to cut this person off does hurt a lot. The fact that it isn't a deal breaker for him is probably always going to sting a little. He's not confrontational at all, and I always knew that. But it's not about confrontation. It's about standing in my corner, and I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who isn't in my corner. This friend is getting married to my best friend in a few months, and we're both supposed to be in the wedding, but I really have no clue how. I get a literal knot in my stomach any time his name is even mentioned now. I have seen this friend one time since all of this came to a head, and he was so over the top nice to me that it came off as cocky. I had the second breakdown a few days afterwards because I realized I'm possibly going to spend the rest of my life on edge and on guard anytime this person is even somewhat in my vicinity, even if they aren't actively ducking with me. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that my fiancé was willing to lie to me on his crappy friend's behalf, but he's not willing to stand in my corner against him. I think it'll always hurt. This guy was supposed to be the best man in our wedding, and as a result, we haven't been talking much about wedding plans. I think if he's still planning on this friend being in our wedding, I may have to call it off for my own sanity, and that sucks so bad. This is ducking eating me alive. I love my fiancé so much. I love his big heart and the way he loves with all of it. But he loves some truly wretched people, and I don't know if he'll enforce any boundaries with those people before the lack of boundaries becomes too much for me to handle. I'm just hurt and hurting, and I just want whatever outcome to play out so I can stop feeling so guilty and awful all the time. Update: never thought I'd actually update this account out of sheer duck and embarrassment, but I wanted to share this for those who encouraged me to put myself first. I want you all to know my partner absolutely came through and protected me in this. We spent all this time since my last post up until last week communicating and trying to find a resolution, and walking through how it got this bad. He took a lot of accountability for that. This is not a case of me giving in. He understands fully that this has only got so bad because it's never been handled correctly, and he had a major hand in that. There were so many more layers to this than a Reddit post ever could have conveyed. The bottom line is we are closer than ever, and after a lot of talking, we decided on my partner sending a firm but not unkind message to his friend, explaining the behaviors, explaining that they were hurting his partner and that it needed to stop. He asked to write up the first draft, and we could go over it together to try to perfect it. Reddit, please know the first draft my partner wrote was so spot on what I needed to read, that it instantly shifted us into us versus the problem mode when we'd been stuck butting heads for weeks. He laid everything out so clearly and in ways that we hadn't discussed, so I know it came from him. We had to tone down a lot of the big emotions. We really truly gave the message its best shot to address the situation without being hostile. We knew the response would be bad no matter what, but I don't think anything could have ducking prepared us. This man went full scorched earth and blew up everything almost immediately. He insulted my partner. He told him these events didn't happen the way I claim they do. He demanded they meet up alone with a mediator. He even threatened to reach out to my partner's parents to fill them in, which is probably the moment we stopped taking his responses seriously. All of us are almost in our 30s. If once wasn't enough, he threatened it twice. We actually had to call them and warn them that he would be showing up at their place later this week and not to open the door. There's still a good chance he'll attempt it. We stayed respectful throughout all of this, which I feel good about. We didn't stoop to his level. We didn't insult anyone. We asked for basic human respect, and somehow it blew up spectacularly. In the end, we both received a massive wall of text from my now ex-best friend, fully backing up her man and telling her side of the story, which is so insanely far off from what actually happened that all I can do is laugh. We've been shifting from crying to being dumbstruck to just straight up laughing because of the absurdity. I went into this thinking she was brainwashed, but it turns out I was wrong. They're a perfect match. I wish them all the best. I am sending them one last message setting the record straight, which my partner and I decided together was the best approach apart from just ghosting, before moving on from this entirely. I'm going to make it very clear this is done. Zero contact indefinitely, and I will never look back. My partner and I both deserve way better friends, and we both see that so clearly now. I am so ducking glad I learned my friend's true colors before we dropped $800 on a hotel for their wedding. Thank you to everyone who was kind. Not only did I put myself first in the end, but my partner did too. We're going to take this week in stride and process it all, grieve the friendships we once thought were forever, and at the end of the week we have a conveniently timed vacation to my partner's family cottage. I think we're going to come out of this stronger because we already feel it. Again, thank you to those who had something productive to say. And I've made my peace with all the rest. I guess if the guy does something else outlandish, maybe I'll update. But for now, this chapter is closed and I'm so ready for it to start collecting dust. The next one is an entitled people story. Trigger warning. If you are bothered by death and suicide, please read on at your own discretion. My heart is broken. I DM a game online via Roll20. It has been going on for 4 years. In fact, the players were at the final boss, a lich that has been flooding the world with a magical curse. About 2 weeks ago I learned that one of our players had tragically taken their own life. They were married to another player who's also is in this campaign. I thought that the campaign was over. The loss of this person rocked our community. We live stream the games, and personally I'm dealing with a lot of survivor's guilt. Not too long ago the player reached out to me and helped me through a very difficult time. I now know they were at the same time hurting as well. I never got to return the favor. The player was very stoic, and their death was a complete surprise. Very recently the spouse came to me and said they wanted to continue, to finish what was started just over 4 years ago. I think everyone in the party is willing to carry on. We have even found a friend who knew both of them to play the character through this last battle. It should last about 2 sessions. I really want to do something special both for the players, a party of 5, and for our friend who is no longer with us, but I don't know what. Fellow DMs, what would you do in this situation? Update, the spouse did reach out and said they want what their partner did to finish the campaign, and they know they wouldn't want to take away from the group the experience of reaching its conclusion. Thank you for your advice, fellow DMs. I appreciate it all. It's all very helpful. I appreciate the community here, and thank you for your care with the subject. There is still a lot of communication and messaging going on to navigate what this looks like so that everyone feels safe and respected while paying tribute to our friend. The spouse wanted to stream it to share the conclusion with the people who have watched over the years. We are still debating/discussing what that looks like. Update, the short of it is that my weekly gaming group had a player and friend suddenly leave us and passed away. We had been playing a home brew campaign going on 4 years, and the characters were about to enter into the final battle with the beg. Their spouse eventually approached me and wanted to finish the campaign. This was complicated because there were 4 other players involved, and we have been live streaming this game to an audience for 3 years. Well, discussion was had amongst the players, and of course spouse. It was my first priority always that whatever we did I wanted everyone to be on board with the plan. Game aside, my friend's emotional well-being and wants were always paramount. We did decide to continue the campaign. The spouse was fine with someone else playing the character, and someone who knew them very well offered to do so. This person already knew everyone in the group. We are all Earl friends, and had close connections with the deceased and their spouse. I brought them up to speed on Roll20 and the character. The spouse was super on board with this choice and was yelling battle cries to jump back into the game and finish the boss. So far we have only had 1 session with another 1 or 2 to go. We decided not to change the game. After chatting with the spouse, it was clear to me that our player would not have wanted their passing to affect things. It seems like a weird place to arrive at, but the friend we lost was stoic but caring, quiet and friendly, strong and thoughtful. I just got the impression that changing things to spotlight their passing in real life wouldn't have been what the player wanted. They were so happy every week with the shared experience, and enjoyed playing the warlock from humble beginnings. I did add some flavor to the epilogue which thanks all the players for their time spent and the spirit they have given, but the character remains as it was. We also decided to continue to stream the game. We don't have a huge audience online, but there are many people who have been here for the journey, and the spouse and I really did want to give them the chance to interact, help, and be a part of the story. The way we present the stream, the viewers are almost like another player, or even an underlying entity that controls luck and fate. They can help, or hinder, and be a part of the game. They add to the greatness and are a part of the action. I also wanted to use the opportunity to give chat a chance to donate to the spouse via GoFundMe. We did raise some additional money for them to help pay for some immediate expenses. I still haven't decided what to do to honor our lost friend and the other players in their journey. There are lots of options I have been considering. I don't have a budget for this, but thankfully there are a lot of free resources that I can take advantage of. What would you do? Out of game, I would love some kind of way to mark the occasion. I'm thinking art or a collage of their characters. The next one is an entitled people story. Last night, I was out with my boyfriend and we were going to meet up with his 2 married friends. He'd told me they were swingers and that they were cool people. Not our thing, so I thought, but I am open hangout with mostly anyone. They were definitely a little flirty, but nothing too crazy. We left the first bar and went to another. While in line waiting for drinks, the wife said, "You have a great ass." I didn't think much of it and played it off as a joke and said thank you. She then continued to tell me she saw the video my partner took of me and repeated intimate, explicit things that were exchanged during sex. I immediately looked at my partner and must have looked pissed because she immediately apologized to him for spilling the beans. I handed my partner his keys and left the bar. He didn't follow me, but texted me. I told him I was outside of a bar a few blocks away waiting for an Uber, and that if he wanted to come meet me to talk without his friends, he could. He didn't. So I took an Uber back to my part of town and went to a local bar. I needed to have a cocktail and think about the crap show that had just occurred. About an hour later he texted me asking what I was doing, and said he was drunk and leaving a concert. How he got to a concert in the span of an hour at 10 p.m. is beyond me. I told him where I was, and he showed up with the couple he'd sent videos of me to. I pulled him outside and said I felt incredibly violated. I told him that it was not okay that he recorded me without my consent and shared the content with others. His response was, "Your beauty is amazing and I wouldn't mind if it were vice versa." I laughed in his face. I reiterated how upset and hurt I was, and he apologized. He came back to my place with me and stayed over. This morning, it all hit me like a ton of bricks and I started crying in bed. When he asked, I told him why, and his response was, "It's not like I cheated on you," and followed with, "You need to focus your energy on something else." After that I asked him to leave. I actually feel quite sick over the whole thing, and he doesn't seem to understand that it's a big deal to me. Am I the asshole for being so upset? Update, I've met with the individuals involved and brought a third party along. Watched them delete the videos and threaten to sue if the video ever surfaces. I had them sign an informal acknowledgement that the video was recorded without my knowledge and they're in agreement it is not to be shared. made copies, and scanned the document. They signed and printed their names without hesitation, so I have something in writing. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.